Donald Trump has now deported multiple US citizen kids with cancer. If that sentence sounds unbelievable, it's because it should be unbelievable. It should not be something that is taking place here. But look at what we have going on. Reports confirmed by the ACLU of Louisiana show that 3 American citizen children were deported in the last week as part of Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. What does it even mean to call it a crackdown? Among them, a 4-year-old child with a rare metastatic cancer deported with no medication, no consultation with doctors, no plan to continue treatment. It doesn't stop there. One of the mothers deported is pregnant, expelled from the United States without any prenatal care arrangements. Another mother given less than a minute to call legal counsel before the call was abruptly cut off. A complete mockery of due process. There is no due process. On the one hand, they say law and order. On the other hand, there's no due process being given to people. The ACLU says that ICE was warned ahead of time about the child with cancer's medical condition. They knew, and they deported the child anyway. These were American citizen children who had every legal right to be in the United States and were ripped away from their communities and their doctors and their medical care, I guess because Trump wants to make a political point. What that point is, I don't even know at this point in time. This is not the first time, because last month, Donald Trump's ICE deported a 10-year-old American citizen with cancer out of Texas. 2 separate cases within weeks of each other of U.S. citizen children with cancer being thrown out of the country without medical care. If you want to talk about cruelty, this is cruelty. And this is what Trump meant, I guess, when he said we were finally going to have law and order again in this country. Punishing children with cancer to scare immigrants and doing it proudly and boasting Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and all of them. The judge overseeing one of these cases called it what it is. We mentioned it earlier. It's the deportation of an American citizen with no meaningful process, meaning no due process. Think about that. A sitting president violating the rights of his own citizens. When you swear an oath on that Bible, although Donald Trump did not actually touch the Bible, we don't know if that was deliberate, but okay, theoretically, you swear the oath on the Bible to defend and uphold the Constitution. And Trump is denying rights to citizens of the United States, ignoring court orders, and putting sick kids in life-threatening danger because in his worldview, enforcing immigration as he sees it justifies anything you want to do. As I write, by the way, in my book, The Echo Machine, this is how authoritarianism spreads. It's not a single sort of like cataclysmic moment. It's a series of little horrors. They're not little to the people they're happening to, right? But in terms of the attention they might get nationally, each one is a little more normalized, a little more minimized, a little more buried under the headlines. And maybe the first time you deport a kid with cancer, it's on the front page. And then the second time it's at the bottom of the front page. And then it's in section B. And all of it is deliberate. Trump understands that once you accept the idea that a president can punish citizen children without consequence, you have accepted, you or I or any of us, we have accepted that the rule of law means nothing. We've accepted that human lives are secondary to political loyalty. So this is not even remotely about immigration anymore. I mean, think about how far removed from immigration policy it is to deport U.S. citizen kids with cancer. So this is now about the kind of country that we are willing to become. Because if we don't fight this, if we don't refuse to let this cruelty become the new normal, it is not going to end with children being deported. It never ends with wherever we are if you allow authoritarians to keep going. Now, Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, he is now calling for mass protests at urban centers. One of the protest techniques I talk about in my book, we now have a sitting governor calling for that. We're going to talk about that later, but it's a reminder, it's a signal, it's a sign of how serious this is getting. I did a bunch of interviews last week where I was I was talking about, I was asked about the effort I make to not be overly hyperbolic, to not be hyperbolic. I think overly is sort of implicit, to not be hyperbolic, but also not to understate the risks and threats that we face. And I try to just tell you the way it is. If there's no real slippery slope, I won't mention one. If there is a slippery slope, I will. We are seeing the slippery slope. Oh, only criminal illegals, only undocumented people, only people with visas or temporary status. We now are at US citizens. Okay. So good for JB Pritzker. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I guarantee you, it is not going to end here. And by the way, they continue creeping closer and closer to the media outlets. Now they are trying to criminalize even media use of leaked documents. We'll talk about that later or tomorrow as well. So make sure you're on my newsletter, davidpakman.substack.com. It's how I can communicate with you about what the latest pushback is on independent media. We'll take a very quick break and be back right after this. After researching, writing, refining, The Echo Machine, my book, is finally out. This is not just a book about how American politics got so broken. It's also about what's happening right now and what we can still do to stop things from getting worse. Trump's been back in power. The results have been even more catastrophic than many feared, with targeting of political opponents and gutting democratic institutions, laying the groundwork to even further consolidate power. But the thing is that none of this is inevitable. The same forces that brought us here can be countered if we understand how they work and what to do about them. And that's what the Echo Machine is all about. Some say that without corporate media backing, books like this can't succeed. I think we can prove them wrong. You can get the Echo Machine right now at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, or by calling any local bookstore and asking them to order it. This book is more important than ever. If you care about what happens next, and I do, check out The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo.